into the MVP conversation. He was that great. Remember, didn't he hit a home run like every day for like a week and a half, 2 weeks? Like that guy, he when he turned it on, like you couldn't get him out. The Cardinals are 6-15 in the month of May and are at 500 currently. But like I said, don't panic. Don't jump ship. I expect arms like Jack Flaherty to do what he did last night against a potent Braves lineup often because he can be that guy. He got off to a little bit of a slow start this year, but he's better than that. Now, the guy that I'm a little bit concerned about is Miles Mikolas. He had an outstanding year last year, but is it sustainable? Because he's not the kind of guy who's going to get a lot of swings and misses. And he's not a very good fantasy starter, to be honest with you, to be completely honest. You either have to be on a team that wins a lot of games, or you have to get a lot of strikeouts. One or the other, or both. If your team is struggling and you're not a big strikeout pitcher, there's no reason to have him, to be honest with you. That being said, based off of last year, he should be better than he's been. His ERA is climbing up towards the 5s. And the Cardinals need to start trying out these other young arms in the rotation over Adam Wainwright, who just appears to have lost it. And it's not even appears to have lost it. I think he's done. Adam Wainwright is done. It is the Felix Hernandez thing in Seattle. They just don't want to let go of it. 37 years old and an ERA of over 5. It's time to look for replacements. The Cardinals' schedule doesn't get any easier traveling over to Philadelphia to take on the first place Phillies. The New York Mets are finally seeing what they expected to see from their big offseason acquisition, catcher Wilson Ramos. A guy who, to be honest, was a little bit overlooked when it came to moves this free agency. Because everybody was talking about JT Realmuto and that trade over to the Phillies. Wilson Ramos is a top hitting catcher, or he has been. But all year, like early on in this season, I've thought to myself, didn't Ramos used to pull the ball a little more often? I felt like he was aiming to go the other way every at-bat. He's either going the opposite way or hitting the ball up the middle. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you want to be able to hit the ball to all fields, and if you're comfortable going the other way, go the other way. Hit the ball up the middle. Whatever works. But the trick is that it wasn't working. You'd like to see more power on display from a catcher brought to New York. He was brought to Queens for his bat. Seeing him have a huge game where he basically carried the Mets in a game where they had to win. That was a must-win game after losing to the hapless Detroit Tigers in Game 1. They needed to win Game 2. They needed to win 2 out of 3 in that series. especially now they're going against the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks in back-to-back series. A 4-game set against the Dodgers starting tonight. By the way, that's a game to watch. Just because I like looking at the pitching matchups. And Jacob deGrom versus Clayton Kershaw. 2 former Cy Young winners. DeGrom being the reigning Cy Young winner. Kershaw may not be what he was before. Still a good pitcher. Obviously a generational talent. That game is on ESPN tonight at 8. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. Ramos had been in a terrible, prolonged slump. And when you think about everything that's gone wrong for the Mets as of late, because I've always talked about it, once one domino falls, they all do. You know, when you... Obviously, they got swept by the Marlins. They lost Michael Conforto to a concussion. Jeff McNeil has been out. Brandon Nimmo was hurt, even though he was having a terrible year. That's still pretty much their entire starting outfield. With Cespedes fracturing his ankle, ending his season before it even began. The Mets were expecting to get him back. With all that going wrong, losing Robinson Cano, they need the Buffalo more now than they originally thought. He went from depth in the lineup to now he needs to be the guy. Getting Conforto back is helpful, but if Wilson Ramos can hit like he can, that is a big cog in the middle of the Mets order. The Pittsburgh Pirates finally called up top pitching prospect Mitch Keller to make his debut tonight in Game 2 of the doubleheader against Cincinnati. I'm looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this. He was 5-0 with a 3.45 ERA in AAA this year. He also got off to a rough start. But he's proven to be ready. He struck out 56 hitters in 47 innings. With all the injuries to the Pirates' starting pitchers, to me, now is the perfect time to give Keller some time to get acclimated to the major leagues. You know, he's going to be a big part of the future anyway. So you might as well get him in there now while everybody is hurt. Keller has struggled with his command in the past. Like I mentioned, he did struggle. Which is why it took, a little bit longer to get him up. But he's always had the stuff to be a good major leaguer. He's shown that he's turning that around. Throwing strikes. When he's around the zone, he's tough to hit. He's ready to make that jump. And he has more upside than their other options. It wouldn't make sense because right now they're calling it a spot start. I really hope they don't just give him this spot start and then send him back to Indianapolis. To me, the Pirates aren't winning the division. The Pirates aren't going to be a wild card team. Not with the Central being the way it is. I fully expect the top three teams to be the Milwaukee Brewers, the Chicago Cubs, and the St. Louis Cardinals in no specific order. So you're not making the playoffs. might as well see what Mitch Keller has right now and just, see how he does. The way he was pitching in AAA, I don't see why he, didn't earn that spot. The Boston Red Sox have placed Dustin Pedroia back onto the 60-day injured list. I almost feel like the guy hasn't played in 3-4 years. Like, it's been a while since Dustin Pedroia has really played for a long period of time. He's getting closer to 40. He was never the biggest guy. He's actually probably the smallest guy on the field most of the time, if not every time. He's also announced that he's going to step away for a while, that his knee will never completely heal. It doesn't seem like he is interested in going through the whole surgery process again. Because as you get into your upper 30s, you're probably not thinking about going through surgeries just to try to come back for another year or two. Because the clock is ticking on your career anyway. He may not ever play again. I can absolutely see that. I can see them winding up having, that one, farewell game or a farewell series. Either this year or next year. Like one of those where what the Mets had with David Wright. Red Sox with Dustin Pedroia, obviously. He's a legend over there. The heart and soul of the Red Sox for a decade. Now, I've already said that Boston would be foolish to try to force Pedroia back into the lineup with young Michael Chavis trying to prove himself as an everyday player, even if Pedroia was 100% ready to go. Because Michael Chavis, if you haven't been paying attention to the Red Sox at all, he really helped, pick this team up. Michael Chavis is he's gotten walk-off hits, he's gotten game winners, big-time game-winning home runs. He has a lot of power. He hits the ball hard. He's very young. I'm sure Pedroia is watching that thinking the same thing. He's like, what? I'm a small veteran player that really didn't have a whole lot of power to begin with. In a game that revolves around power. He's not a big-time speed demon anymore. What exactly would he bring to the Red Sox outside of veteran leadership? So I understand what they're doing. But, and I stand by my opinion on that. But there's a certain level of appreciation that I have for the hard-nosed second baseman. The way he played the game. See, the guys who aren't necessarily the most talented, they needed to work 50 times harder than everyone else just to even get a chance. I'm sure there were plenty of doubters. I'm sure there were most people doubting him. But you know what? Perseverance. That guy has to be one of the hardest working baseball players I've seen. He's always been a tough at-bat. He did have some power for a miniature guy. Got big hits all the time. But that being